Doug Wright. Covering Utah's biggest stories. Breaking Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Sometimes when I'm driving in the morning, of course, always listening to, this morning it was Brian and Tim, but Brian and Amanda, sometimes the story that I hear will just, oh, God, are you kidding me? And that was the case this morning. So I was just tooling into work, cruising on in, innocently listening, and I hear about this incident in Layton where a Subway employee apparently put illegal drugs into a Layton police sergeant's drink on Monday as they went through the drive-thru. Unbelievable. Methamphetamine and THC, that's the, tough part of marijuana, and it's in this guy's drink. It's in this sergeant's drink. I thought, oh man, what are we coming to? I mean, shouldn't anybody, as you go through the drive-thru window, be absolutely solid confident that what you're going to get will not be purposefully tainted, much less if you're a police officer and it appears that the drink was tainted because this person was a police officer. Well, we've put in a phone call to the Layton PD, and I so appreciate Lieutenant Travis Lyman joining us today. And Lieutenant, I'm still just flabbergasted at this. So many of the stories where police have been targeted, and sadly often in very, very violent ways, but this is so insidious in such a tranquil, who doesn't go through a drive-through window in the course of any given day or two, and to think that somebody would purposefully taint this drink is incredible. Tell us what happened to your knowledge.
You're right, it is, Doug. First of all, thanks for having me on. And we certainly, it certainly is outrageous if, in fact, it happened the way that it appears it may have happened, for somebody to target somebody going through the drive-thru, police officer or not, and taint the product that they're getting is outrageous. But in this instance, where it was a police officer who is then going to drive away and drive down the road and potentially respond to an emergency call for service or something like that and now be impaired is all the more outrageous.
Somebody literally could have died in this, if not the officer, him or herself, in this case himself, pulling away and, started to feel the effects and who knows? He could have passed out. He could have died. He could have rolled into right over a stroller on the street. Good heavens, the downside. As bad as this was, it's amazing that nobody was seriously hurt.
It is, yeah. We're grateful that our sergeant only took a few sips of this drink. Had he consumed more of it, without knowing the amounts that were in this drink, had he consumed more, it's just safe to assume that the effects would have been that much more severe. And absolutely, now he's driving down the road. Any of those things could have happened.
What, maybe you could describe for us, when did the sergeant realize that something was wrong? Maybe you could kind of walk us through what he has told you.
Yeah, so he got the drink and his sandwich from the drive-thru, pulled away, and took about 3 sips of the drink, and within just a couple of minutes recognized that something wasn't right. He started feeling the effects pretty quickly of whatever was in the drink, he assumed. It kind of came to his attention that, the drink actually tasted a little bit off, and by that time, he was starting to feel the effects, so he made a call to our dispatch center on the phone and letting them know that he was having some problems and needed some help. And we ended up getting him some medical attention right then, and he ultimately ended up in the hospital.
Wow. Well, at the hospital, what did they do for this?
Well, they monitored his condition, certainly drew some blood to try and determine what exactly was going on with him. As time passed, the effects were apparent with him. Anybody who saw him or interacted with him, the effects were apparent, that he was under the influence of something and not feeling well. But as time passed, he started to gradually pull out of it and feel well enough that he was able to be released from the hospital last night.
Well, you do wonder. All of us have been in this situation where you'd go through the drive-thru and you're really thirsty, and this was a lemonade. This is designed to be a refreshing drink, and what if he had just chugged that puppy down? And you wonder what the long-term effect might have been.
Yeah, we do. Like I said, we are grateful that he didn't do just that, because certainly the effects would have been magnified, I think, had that been the case.
This individual who was at the window and who spiked this drink, has he said anything? Do we know anything about him?
Well, he has said that he didn't do it. I mean, he denies doing anything like that. So at this point, he was booked on a charge of surreptitiously administering a narcotic based on the testimony of our officer and what he experienced and the timeline that he explained. The fact that this employee was the one who poured the drink, handled the drink. He was the only employee who handled the drink, and is seen on the store's surveillance footage with the drink, and took what may be interpreted as a little bit longer than what was necessary with this drink before it was handed through the window to our officer. And then certainly the two different presumptive tests that we ran on the contents of that drink cup, the liquid itself, both indicated that there was narcotics in it. So while he's denied involvement, he was booked on probable cause based on those facts.
I can only imagine the questions that are being asked, and maybe the searches that have gone on within that subway location, and perhaps on the individual person and his effects as well. Have other drugs been found anywhere else? No
other drugs were found at the store or on him. And the store itself, I would like to say that the management there and the store, everybody there has been very cooperative, and we certainly don't harbor any ill feelings towards them or Subway. It was, if it played out the way we suspect it may have, it would have, it looks like, been just that single employee.
Yeah. Can you imagine how mortified you'd be if you were the franchise owner and if you were the manager or whatever, and that kind of happened on your watch? And that'd be tough. And in some cases too, we talk about the downsides for the officer and for those who could have been endangered as he drove out onto the road. But what this could do to a business. And I appreciate you saying that there are no hard feelings and so on, because I can only imagine somebody who's working so hard has put their lifeblood into a franchise like that, and then to have it jeopardized in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. We feel the same way about the store, and I don't know. Again, if it happened the way we suspect, I don't know what the motivation was. If it was targeted at our officer specifically, or a police officer in general, or if it was just somebody thinking that would be funny. We don't really know what the motivation was. But
Lieutenant Lyman, I really appreciate you joining us today. Give our best, especially to this officer that ingested that. Give him our well wishes, and thank you also for being so open and joining us on the program today.